Welcome to another episode of UCRD Reviews. So today we have a figure from 8th MS team. This one's the RGM-79 GM ground type version anime. So it's a regular release. It has a nice little windowed box there, which is nice. And it's a figure that we haven't seen since the early 2000s in the MSIA line. We got it in both North America and Asia. And it was a neat figure. It came with the Type 61 tank, actually, and which hopefully we'll see in the Robot Spirits line in some form. But this one here is a very well-needed upgrade. So the GM ground type is a really neat mobile suit. It actually predates the standard GM and was used for data testing to make that GM. It's based off the ground Gundam, obviously, uses a lot of the same parts, and although it has a lower power generator and is missing some of the features that the ground Gundam has, like Vulcans, some of the head sensors, the periscope, stuff like that. It does have a lot of color variations, most notably the Slave Wraith team colors, the versions from Code Fairy, and my personal favorite, the Cold Climate colors from Gihren's Greed. Unfortunately, we'll probably never see any of those in figure form, but at least we can take a look at the regular GM ground types. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. So here is the GM ground. Now the body of it's going to be very similar to the ground Gundam, although not exactly the same, but we'll go over articulation just to be thorough here. So there's the head, which I'll show later. It is swappable with the Gundam ground head, so you can make Karen's GM head version. So you can do a full 360 with it. You can look up quite a bit, and it can look down a pretty good amount. You do have chest flex, which is pretty good. The torso will go down about that far, and up about there. You have virtually no turning with it. The front and side skirt armor are ball jointed. The little magazines can come off. The rear one is fixed, but it has a storage piece, and I have no nails, and this is going to be really difficult. There we go. So you can store stuff in there, which we'll get to in a little bit. We do have the backpack here, which is wildly different than the ground Gundams, and much simpler. And this one just plugs right into the back there. You have ball jointed effect part compatible thrusters. You have a hard point here. Don't really know why. I don't think there's anything that goes there. Maybe the shield connection. I don't know. We'll try stuff out later on. These little things actually pop off on either side. There's nothing that can store here. The rocket launcher cannot store here. Nothing else can. What I suspect is that these will be removable on the GM Sniper figure that we will hopefully get, which would be pretty cool. So, going back over here, and everything looks really good here. I mean, the chest sculpt obviously is way different than the ground Gundams. The arms will go up about that far. They'll do a full rotation. Shoulder armor is pretty out of the way. They'll turn up here. They'll also fall off. I keep forgetting there's this armor piece here. So if you turn them too far around, they'll just pop off. Elbow articulation is pretty good. You have shield hardpoint, and you have ball jointed wrists with another joint kind of inside the wrist for extra movement. For the legs, they'll go out about that far before they're hitting the armor, so not super great articulation. They do the little version anime thing where the hip can move forward. They'll come up about that far. Good knee articulation. You do have beam saber storage in the legs, just like the ground Gundam. And then with the feet, they'll come down about that far, up with toe articulation about that far, and a decent range of side to side with the foot guard here as well. So articulation's pretty good, not the best. I've seen far better, but the figure looks fantastic. I mean, this looks like it just got pulled straight out of the 8th MS team line art, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this figure comes with. So just like any other version anime, we have the hand rack, 2 sets of opposing hands, gun hands, and beam saber hands. Remember, these are beam saber hands because the trigger finger is separated here, but not here. So this is for holding the guns. Friendly reminder. We also have, speaking of beam sabers, we have 2 of them. Now the Ground Gundam and the Ground GM have small beam saber handles. It's just how they were designed in the anime. So that is reflected here. You get 2 of these, 2 blades, and then let me grab the figure here. The rack will open up. It's really easy to open, and then these store going straight down, or not. There we go. And they'll store right up, just like that. So pretty easy. We also have the Ground GM shield, identical to the one with the Ground Gundam. This one's just painted different and has the 7th team on it, so it can store on the arm and can be folded forward as a punching device, which is pretty cool. And again, similar to the Ground Gundam, we have the 100mm machine gun, which is storable in the Ground Gundam's container rack, has the folding stock, the folding handle, and the removable box magazine. And then, like we saw with the Gundam Desert Spec, or the Ground Gundam Desert Spec, we have the beam rifle. Just like with that one, you do want to be careful of this little bit right here. You don't want to bend that. It'll leave a nasty stress mark. Unfortunately, found that out the hard way. And the handle and the camera can both turn in either direction about this far, which is unfortunate because I really wanted them both to be able to achieve a 90-degree angle like in the anime, but it cannot. It is effect part compatible, as is the machine gun. They both look good, but this one was just a little disappointing when we saw it last time, and it still is now. However, they are both storable on the Ground GM, and I remember I was questioning this little hard point, and now we have a purpose for it. So let's go ahead and use this little storage piece and store it on our Ground GM. So here is the beam rifle stored. The piece just plugs straight into the back there, and the rifle plugs right in pretty easily. And then we'll go ahead and rip this off of here. It actually plugs in quite snug. So we'll plug this back in, and I think we can plug the machine gun in just like it is without, yep, there we go, and it plugs right onto the back there. Now this piece, unfortunately, I checked just a second ago, the shield connection that comes with the Ground Gundam Desert Spec does not work with this, so I really don't know what this hard point is. If any of you know in the comments, let me know. And also the Ground Gundam's backpack cannot fit on the back. That's actually a feature that the GM Ground has in lore. It can use the Ground Gundam's backpack in some cases, but that is not reflected in the figure here. We do have an interesting accessory here, and that is the Gundam Hammer. I don't think I have a Gundam Hammer in Robot Spirit's form. I know I have the Hyper Hammer from the Red Warrior, but this is the Gundam Hammer, which doesn't have all the thrusters and the big spikes on it. So you're probably thinking, why does the GM Ground come with the Gundam Hammer? I don't remember seeing a GM Ground using that weapon, and you're correct. It never did. This is actually a weapon intended for the Ground Gundam. So it was actually shown very briefly in the anime in one of the last episodes. The Absolus 3 blows the head off of a Ground Gundam that is using the Gundam Hammer. So for some reason they released it with the ground GM instead. It also features a storage system, which is this weird looking piece. And so let's go ahead and put it on the ground GM real quick. And so it's actually a really well done storage piece. It just snaps onto the storage hardpoint back there. The handle snaps into the front, and then you just wrap the rest of it around. It's not my favorite accessory. I didn't really like the Hyper Hammer. Using a real chain is nice, but kind of makes it hard to pose with. But it's a neat accessory, and interesting that they caught that, because it was really a blink and you'll miss it scene from the anime. And then lastly here we have the shield. So this one's pretty much the Cold District GM's shield. There's a little bit of a mar there on it, but it's pretty much the basic shield from that 0080 release. And it has the handle on it. This was also a one and done kind of scene. It was when the GM grounds were blown up by the nuclear bomb. One of them had a standard type shield. You can also see shields kind of like this used, but with the cross on it, in MS Igloo 2, because that featured ground GMs as well. My complaint here is that there is no arm connection. All you get is the handle, which I think is a really weird oversight for such a figure. I mean, it works, but I like to use the arm connections for these, and maybe even would have been cool to have a backpack connection because the hard point's already there. But nope, you don't get any of that. You just get the shield itself, which is, again, it's nice, but what a weird oversight. And then of course you have two pretty basic effect parts. You have a slashing beam saber that we've seen 1,000 times, and you have a two-part beam rifle effect part as well. And I will say on the box art, I didn't mention it earlier, but normally they do really good with the box art posing, but this just looks really awkward the way he's holding the beam rifle. Kind of threw everything off, but that's just me nitpicking. But normally they do fantastic with the way the box art looks, but this one was a little bit of a miss. So I wanted to do a real quick comparison with the ground Gundam, since they're both very similar. Obviously the heads are different and the chests are very different. Backpacks are going to be different. The rear skirt armor is the same. You can't really see it because the machine gun's blocking it, but it is identical, as are the side skirt armors with the magazines. Front skirt armor is the same as well, except for the middle piece. The arms, I didn't notice. There's no shield hardpoint on this arm for the ground Gundam. I didn't catch that in my original review, but as you can see, the ground GM has shield hardpoints on both arms. Other than that, the arms and the hands are identical, as well as the shoulders. The legs are the same up here, but once you get into the knee section, you can see they're very different. A little bit different detail there. You have a white triangle versus the ground Gundams, and then the feet are the same. So very, very similar. And since I have them out, we will do a quick head swap so you can actually make Karen's GM head version. Possibly. Maybe. There we go. Took it a second. But you can make Karen's GM head if you have an extra one of these. Now the smarter way to do it is to buy the option set instead of buying a second ground GM. I bought two of these before they announced the option set, so I have two ground GMs, but that conversion is made if you don't have the option set and you have and you're able to find these a little easier, which honestly seems unlikely, but it is possible. So, two very nice figures. I'm glad to have them. So the ground GM is a really solid figure. It comes with most of the accessories it needs. The only thing it's really missing is the 180mm cannon. Was shown once in the anime with that, very briefly. But you could always swap it out with the ground Gundam since it comes with a Ground Gundam accessory, you can give the Ground Gundam's cannon to this, but it would have been cool if it had it to begin with. You know, the shield kind of had a nitpick with the arm connection there. Everything else seemed to work just fine. I kind of wish there's a little bit more features and modular abilities, like the Ground Gundam backpack being able to connect to it. I know that's not really seen much in media, but it is a thing. And utilizing these storage pieces on the backpack would have been nice. They're just kind of there for no reason for now. And then more effect parts would have been pretty cool. You know, some firing effects aside from the beam rifle one. You know, maybe a machine gun firing effect. Something just a little bit different. Maybe even an explosion effect for the shield, since it is effect part compatible on both shields actually. But other than that, for $38 and change, which is what I paid on Anime Export this time, not Nin Game. I bought both of them for the same price. You know, it's worth it at that point. I don't know how much more these are going to be on the secondhand market after they've been released for a little while, but if you're able to pick it up for especially under $40 before shipping, I mean, that's amazing. Even under $50, I think it's absolutely worth it. And hopefully we'll see our final wave of 8th MS team with the GM Sniper and the Goof Flight type. So thank you for watching the review. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comments, and if you bought any and how many, and what you want to see next in the 8th MS team line. Of course, there's not much left. I don't think we're going to see the test type Zaku or the GM, is it type, not type C, the GM E type from the beginning of the show. I don't think we're going to be getting those, unfortunately. But let me know what you think. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll see you next time, hopefully with the second option part set for the 8th MS team line. I'll be reviewing that, and hopefully getting the Rigazi custom in soon as well. So I'll see you next time.